Thank you so much for having me at the STEAMpower Festival. My name is Alexandra, and I'm one of the co-founders of VidCode, and I'm the CEO of VidCode. And so today we're going to talk about activism and after school. We're going to talk about coding and just different ways that kids can express themselves through things like activism and coding in the after school space. And so before I kind of get into the nuts and bolts of things, just to give you a little bit of background on myself and the company. VidCode was founded about 7 years ago, really to impact the education space, and we set out on a mission to create an online coding platform that appeals as strongly to teen girls as it does to teen boys. And in that effort, we created coding tutorials and experiences and activities that are related to teenagers' everyday lives. They leverage multimedia, and it's through multimedia that the activism and kid self-expression can really come through. So I'd love to do a couple things today. Would love to show everyone a couple examples of student projects. Would love to show you some free resources and lesson plans that can be used in the after school space right away as well. And so with that in mind, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, great. Just want to make sure I have the right screen up. So there we go. So perfect. So before I show you guys activities and student projects made in the after school space around particular subject matter that matters to them and their communities, just want to show you how you can access these resources and create an account. So I am here on vidcode.com, and any educator or staff member or PD provider can go ahead and just create an account right here. You can sign up as an educator, and there's no coding experience needed to facilitate any of these courses in the after school space. So you can just go ahead and sign up as an educator, and you'll have access to the free tutorials and lesson plans to pursue some of these projects. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with my my educator email here. All right, so now I'm logged into the VidCode platform. Again, anyone who creates an account today will have access to free tutorials, and to just talk a little bit about the multimedia aspect to this coding platform and to the opportunity to really create coding and activism in the after school space. Multimedia is really a big part of that, and looking at how kids and youth today express themselves. So this JavaScript 101 course is free for any school to use, any teacher, any after-school provider. And you can, it begins with how to create your own video filter. And then it moves into creating your own augmented reality doodle, your own memes, your own interactive memes. And so each of these open-ended projects can be used to send a message. A lot of our facilitators express, their own personal journey with coding. It's one message that's shared, and I'll show you some of these projects. So actually, I want to show you how these projects are created, but before I do that, let me start with kids projects in general. And here at VidCode, we have partnered with a lot of third-party research partners. We have grants from the federal government to test this curriculum. And with one of our after-school partners in New York City, we've actually found that 80% of participants in an after-school program run in Brooklyn, it happened to be all girls through Girl Scouts, they saw an 80% increase in confidence and the girls' identity as a programmer. And so I'm going to show you a project from that particular after-school program right now. And let me know if you guys can't hear the audio. It's okay if you can't actually, so I'll just play the video. They also have coded the text. All right, I'll just take a second to load here. All right, great. So that is an example of a project that the girls you saw featured in the video made over the course of a 10-week after-school program. Again, this one took place in Brooklyn, New York, and they met for 2 hours a week in that 10-week program, and they spent 1 hour of that 2 hours thinking about the concepts for their video, and they spent the other hour going through the VidCode tutorials to create the effects on that video. And so combined, it really allowed, and it actually culminated in a film festival of all the girls' projects. So this is what we find really exciting when we see students have the opportunity to create a concept, create a film, and also learn something as foreign as a coding language as they do that. That's one reason why we believe we see that increase in confidence, that 80% increase in confidence after going through an after-school program such as this. Again, because it allows, and I had the same experience learning to code myself, that you can use a strength such as storytelling or video making or any type of multimedia strength as you're learning, again, a foreign language such as coding. And so that's really, really transformative experience for students. And so just to talk about a little bit about this project. So on the right-hand side, we have the code that the girls wrote to create this art piece and or this film, I should say. And so, what are they doing with the code here? So they've coded the title, they've coded the color of the font, every aspect of the title there. They've created repeat functions so that when so they're actually timing with code when that text shows up on the screen and when it goes away, depending on other factors in their program here. Additionally, so they use that again, another repeat block here. And so all those paragraphs about themselves where they spoke about their heritage, their background, their pride in that, each of those, again, are timed with code. And so if the movie is at this kind of timestamp in the timing of the movie, then it will show that particular block of text with girls. So this is really core computer science knowledge, if-else statements, logic, conditionals. And so with projects such as this, these, again, these girls are having the opportunity to not even just learn a web programming language, but they're learning core computer science skills that will apply to any computer programming language they learn. And that is a very, very important component of teaching our students to code these days, is to allow them to master programming and master computer science in a way that they can apply their knowledge to any programming language, because they're always changing. And even the most popular programming languages, such as JavaScript and Python, this is JavaScript, are constantly being updated. And so what's most important is to start to build that foundational knowledge, start to master the different languages in different ways, and also to keep that engagement and allow students to make really diverse projects are all core measures of computer science learning outcomes, according to the latest research. And it's a pretty new field of research. But MIT Scratch just released some really neat studies in November 2020 about this. So let me just show you one more project, and then I'll show you how these resources can be leveraged and how you can conduct similar types of learning moments for students. And so here's another project. This is, not a 10-week project. It's more, probably took a couple class sessions here. This is our I Have a Dream project. It's the final project in that JavaScript 101 course, which is free, and everyone here today can walk away with and use in their classroom or in their after-school program. And in this particular project, students are testing their introductory knowledge of JavaScript here. Again, they're placing text on the screen. They're learning about the XY coordinates and the grid of this HTML5 canvas. So it's really cool. And as they're placing this text and all that good stuff, they're also in this particular project sharing about a female role model, an astronaut, and they're sharing different things that they're impressed by with this particular role model. So, the possibilities are really endless here. The video I just showed you guys is a PSA video. This is really kind of a role model piece. And there's really any idea that a student has or any person that's important to them, they can bring in with multimedia in these projects. So really important part of the learning process. All right, so I am going to kind of work backwards here. We just saw the output, the final projects that students have made, and now I'm going to show you kind of the input and the resources and everything that goes into making those projects. All right, so I'm going to navigate back to my homepage here in my educator account, and let me show you how the students are actually creating these projects. So I'm going to enter this JavaScript 101 course. Here's that I Have a Dream project that we just looked at. I'm going to start in the first tutorial. There's 10 tutorials in this particular course, and they will be introduced to, again, core computer science concepts such as loops and conditionals, and they'll build on those skills, really rinse and repeat up until this final project where they work in more of a sandbox environment and can create a little bit more from the ground up there. So just to kind of show you how the coding environment itself works for students to make their coding and activism projects. So here I am in the code editor. This is how all the tutorials are put together. It's an interactive learning environment. So students are prompted to first upload a video or upload a photo of, again, something they care about. It could be their friends, it could be their family, it could be their community, it could be a theme month. It's Women's History Month. So, depending on what's going on in the classroom or in the after school environment, again, that theme can be brought in through the multimedia assets themselves. And students can also record their own video. So for those students that are still in person or virtual or hybrid environments, it's a great way for students to see each other's faces and to get creative with that. And they can also upload their own files here. So that's kind of the multimedia aspect of the learning process. Then we have the code editor here in the center. And on the left-hand side here, we have these self-guided instructions for students. They can also listen to the instructions, text to speech. And so the first thing that students are going to do here is they step through the self-guided instructions. They'll be introduced to what is JavaScript, what is a web programming language. All of these instructions are designed to help girls and boys build their identity as a programmer. And they are full of culturally relevant examples and opportunities for students to really place themselves in the role of the programmer, and to understand that a programmer is anything. You can apply programming to fashion, to art, to music, to any type of form of expression. And for the actual coding to begin, students will start with a drag and drop environment here, just to hit the ground running and to start making visual associations with what is this coding. And so in this very first tutorial, students are being introduced to functions, again, another core component of any object-oriented programming language. And they're going to have the opportunity to start adjusting or manipulating this code, and manipulating, in this case, the hex color of this coding project. And so they can start to adjust the values just as a web programmer would, and start to see that, oh, this hex code affects this tint function. And it's within these parentheses, which means it's a parameter. And in our educator resources, which I'll share here in a moment, we have all the background knowledge, additional information that mentors or facilitators in the class can bring to students. And again, that just helps if you're learning to code alongside the students. That's 100%, or I would say 80% of facilitators that we work with, that's the case. So there's plenty of opportunities to learn code here as the students are, or to even learn from them, and to make it interactive in that way. And then also students will start to learn, what is the value? What's this number? It's not just a number. A value is a data point. It's a number that points back again to that tint filter and helps us control the intensity of this pink tint. And so again, some pretty big concepts here. They're going to be rinsed and repeated in those individual tutorials. But the visual associations here are very strong. They're very immediate. And again, they relate back to tweens and teens' lives today. So we're constantly trying to make sure that, that students can bring in their own ideas. And so as students start to learn the curriculum, you know, they could start to type their own thoughts or messages, or text onto the screen. They're going to start placing that text on the screen, as we saw with some of the example projects, and they're going to start to learn about the XY coordinate system here. So I won't go through this entire tutorial, but I just wanted to show you guys kind of how these creations are created. And there's, most of these tutorials are about 15 to 20 minutes for students. So again, in kind of a 45 or hour long after school program, they're perfectly formatted to, you know, take up a good portion of that class period, but also leave time for show and tell and reflection and discussion before the tutorial begins as well. And so I'll speak a little bit about how these classes are facilitated here in just a moment. And yeah, I know I'll wrap up the demo here in about 5 minutes. Would love to take any questions or answer any questions as well. And so yeah, so once students are done, they can submit their project to their facilitator. Maybe this was a PSA about a local pet rescue is a very common theme in our PSAs and activism projects here on Big Code. And so students can document in their title and in their description. Their project will be exported. It will look a lot like a Scratch project and a YouTube video put together. They can download this video. They can embed this project into other websites. Maybe they have a WordPress. We do also have courses for them to learn how to build those things. But it can be embedded outside the Big Code platform anywhere with that embed code. And this URL is very shareable as well. And yeah, so just lots of, and remixing projects has been a really big value add experience for students in the after school programs that we see the ability for them to ask each other questions and go back and remix each other's code can be really, really helpful as well. All right, so the lesson plans and resources, these are really the, so we were in the JavaScript 101 course once again, and just to show you the lesson plans that pairs with that. Again, this is available for free for anyone to access today. And we have hand-created slides here to start sharing concepts with students. So you can actually just open up either a virtual or in-person experience, just open up these slides and start to talk about the terminology, the programming languages, the functions. We spoke about that together. And then we also have suggested agendas. The background information is printed here. So a lot of facilitators using these tutorials really just use this as a blueprint, kind of a cheat sheet or something to run through the night before class. And every single tutorial has a sample solution. And so you can pull this up, and especially if kids are working on projects that have to do with activism or their community, you can pull up the example, say, we're going to make a video filter today. Think about a concept that you're working on, or maybe a research project that you're in the middle of, and think about how you could integrate that with a filter and integrate that into this coding environment. So again, kind of endless opportunities to connect different subject areas and different topics with the code. The code is really provided here in the tutorial and in the lesson plan, allowing for the class period and the instructor and the students themselves to leave some time open to build concepts and to think of different ideas they might want to integrate with these projects. I do highly recommend repeating these tutorials as well. They can be used again and again and again with different ideas or different concepts, and especially if it's a summer enrichment program, wonderful for a 1-week intensive, wonderful for those 10-week after-school programs as well. And it's a great idea to have a culminating festival or film festival to show off student work. And speaking of showing off student work, just one kind of important thing to note. So if you do want to start building these kind of coding and activism projects yourself, you can quickly add students to your profile here with a roster. And you can also create your own gallery. So if you do have a theme for your STEAM program, maybe for your makerspace, they can actually document their robotics projects. They can document other makerspace learnings into these projects. But whatever theme is incorporated at your hub, you can just select student projects and add or remove them from the showcase. And that showcase is going to look just like this gallery that we were looking at earlier. So that's another way to celebrate concepts, celebrate ideas, and continue the theme of activism and coding. And so our gallery has plenty of examples of different types of projects and some really cool concepts and impactful work by students. So I definitely recommend checking this out for ideas to replicate at your STEAM hub. And lastly, there is a coding sandbox. So this is a great place to build from the ground up. Again, it's accessible to everyone. You can bring in different projects, different ideas, different themes in the STEAM space into this sandbox and have students express themselves here. This is also a great place for students who do have some coding experience. This is a professional grade editor, so they can bring in JavaScript. They can write any language that they want into this. And then we also have a reference library here for students to, as they build their skills, again, continue to create custom projects. And so perfect. With that in mind, I will, I just have a few minutes left here. I will pause if there are any questions. Well, in that case, I will just kind of wrap up my session here. I'll just go back to the screen, go back to the beginning. So yeah, please check out these wonderful projects by students, get inspired for after school, and feel free to sign up for free resources on thankful.com. And we thank you very much for having us at the conference today.